What you know, alibis. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Hope you're having a good day so far. It's Wednesday, May 21st. We are going to wrap up day 20 in the Karen Reed trial. But first, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. And if you want notifications of when I post new content, just click on that little bell icon. Court started late today because the judge sent everybody out, including family, and only left both sides and Karen in the courtroom to question jurors. We really don't know what went on, or if it's out there, I haven't seen it. However, from someone in the courtroom, they tweeted out that it looked like some jurors had switched seats. Also, tomorrow was supposed to be a half day, but we finished up today. Court will not be back in session until Tuesday. So, a nice little break, which I am happy for because that way I can spend some time updating on other cases that we're following. Let's jump into today's testimony. We started off with Dr. Aizik Wolf, who is a brain surgeon. He brings out the photos of John to show to the jury. He points out the 1.5 inch laceration with bridging tissue, as well as bruising and scrapes. He calls this a classic blunt trauma injury. This happens when soft tissue hits a solid ground. It tears the skin, and then you also see the bruising. John had a non depressed skull fracture. He describes all the places that John had fractures, including at the base of the skull. He says when you fall backwards, gravity brings you down and the skull hits the ground. It gets smashed and the brain moves forward as a response to the impact. Inside our skull, we have these mini mountains just above where our ears are and then just where our eyebrows are. And the brain is being thrust forward. And when it's hitting these little mini mountains, it's bruising your brain. John's brain had a subarachnoid hemorrhage and a subdural hemorrhage, neither of which were huge or would have required surgery. Other injuries John had was bruising in the front and on the side of his brain, as well as the injury to the base of the skull. The laceration or the big gash on the back of his head could be from a fall landing on hard ground. The witness thinks this is what caused the entire injury to John's brain. The big gash on his back is consistent with hitting frozen ground. The Commonwealth asked if he could have hit a ridge to get that injury, and the witness said no. He's seen these types of injuries when people fall backwards if they're drunk. Maybe you slip on some ice and fall backwards, or you have a heart attack and just hit the floor hard. John did not have a depressed skull fracture. And what that means is the bones go inward towards the brain when they're broken. The witness said John fell to the ground at a high rate of speed. He had fractures to his orbital roof, and the brain absolutely did not cause those orbital roof fractures. The raccoon eyes were caused by the initial force. That kind of force often leads to raccoon eyes. So the orbital roof is if you imagine looking at a skull, inside where our eyes would sit, it's kind of on the upper part of that hole. I hope that makes sense. The witness can't say if the injuries were immediately fatal, but it would have quickly rendered him unable to function or even call out for help. However, he may have been able to move. The witness said the top portion of our brain can get separated from the brainstem. And he says when we were cavemen, and if a caveman was injured and an animal may come and touch them, these are automatic reflexes, which is where you may draw your arms in and throw your feet out, or you push out your arms and legs and it scares off an animal. I think it's kind of like the startle reflex in babies. You know how when they're laying all sweet and then all of a sudden all their limbs stiffen? That's kind of how I envision what he was saying. After the fall, John would not have died immediately. There's few things with a head injury that would cause you to die instantly. For example, a knife through the brainstem or a bullet through the brainstem could cause instant death. But normally with a brain injury, it's a process. Several things happen, such as brain swelling, which causes decreased blood flow to the brain, and then death of the brainstem, which controls your heart and your breathing. Becoming brain dead can take a long time. In severe injuries like John's, it's a very high mortality rate. Around 67% or two-thirds of patients would die from the type of injury John had. He explains the raccoon eyes happen from leaking through those orbital fractures to the orbital space. It normally takes about 24 to 48 hours for that to develop, but it has been noted as early as 1 to 3 hours after the injury. As far as the hypothermia, John's body temperature was 80 degrees. Anything below 82 is considered severe hypothermia. That leads to multiple organ failure and a coma like state. He said if your body temperature is below 81 degrees, you're probably going to die. On Cross, they talk about his education, the kind of things he sees at work as far as brain injuries. He sees stroke victims, cancer patients, people with tumors, and the defense says you're not a forensic pathologist. He says he is a brain surgeon. He doesn't perform autopsies, but he says he sees more brains than a forensic pathologist. He's asked about the cut on John's right upper eyelid. Would force have caused that? The witness said that cut is not related to anything he has described on his direct exam. That was it for him. The next witness, it was Christina Hanley. She was the last witness on the stand yesterday, and she came back. She examined the glass pieces, broken taillight, and says she was able to match 6 pieces to the broken glass that was found at 34 Fairview. She was given 5 small pieces that were found on the road, and she compared those to the glass found on the bumper. There was no physical match between those. She also examined the housing of the taillight. She compared it to broken red and clear plastic portions that were found at 34 Fairview. She also looked at the debris from the t-shirt as well as that gray long sleeve shirt John was wearing. Some of the debris was one clear piece of plastic and several pieces of red plastic, among other trace material. They show photos of the debris and then the plastic pieces separated from that debris. The clear plastic from the debris was consistent in color and instrumental properties compared to the taillight from the SUV. It could have originated from that SUV taillight or another source with the same characteristics. As far as the red plastic, it was consistent in color and microscopic appearance with the taillight samples from the SUV. On Cross, they ask about the instruments she uses, and they show a graph of how she tests things, which is way out of my league. They ask if she found any biological material on the pieces she examined. That's not her area, but she did not make note of anything consistent with that on the pieces she saw. The defense puts up a chart showing who found what between Buchanan and Proctor, and if it matched her work. The defense points out the only piece that matched the glass was the one provided by Trooper Proctor. On redirect, the Commonwealth points out the items did match and mentions that none of the photos on the chart that the defense showed included the broken taillight pieces. It only showed the things that were recovered by Proctor and Buchanan. And that's where we ended today. So at some point over the next few days, I'm going to do some catch-up episodes on Lori Daybell, Brian Koberger, and Donna Adelson. But I think I'm going to take a couple of days off just to relax, chill out with my family. It's been a long few weeks, an exciting few weeks for my family. And I think I'm just going to kick my feet up and enjoy some stillness. I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.